Hi, it's Jeremy Shatton from An Earful. Welcome back to Discover Music with An Earful. This is monthly listening for May 2024. Recording a little bit early. We've already had 4 Fridays packed with new music this month, and I won't be available next week to record, so we're going to do it now, and it's going to be packed. Before we get started, I did want to say something about what I'm trying to do here. And one of the ways to look at it is that I'm giving you the tools for intentional listening. Intentional listening is crucial in this day and age because if you listen passively, you may not know what you're getting, and you may be getting AI. I'm not going to spread rumors, but I've heard some things about playlists on Spotify, sort of mood music or themed playlists, being a little bit leavened with a few AI tracks, possibly so they can get royalties from them or not give royalties to a real artist. I'm not really sure. But I can say that for the last 2 weeks, my release radar has had 2 or 3 tracks that are fake, that have a name on them that I've never heard before, and they list somebody I have heard of as a featured artist, which is how they end up in my playlist. Someone like Hiss Golden Messenger or Fruit Bats, and they're just blah electronic music. This is how they're trying to, I don't know what, save money, get us softened up for AI? I'm not really sure. But if you listen intentionally, for example, to my Of Note playlists or the playlists I share with every podcast, you will not be getting any AI unless it is software written and designed by the composer to do something interesting, as we've heard from Taylor Brook. So with that said, I'll be right back with some interesting concerts that I saw in May. The first show I got to in May was on the 10th. Went out to Baby's All Right for a Gunk happy hour. Gunk, I've mentioned before, is the newsletter and show listing resource by Hannah Brzezinski and Cece Sturman. It's so great. Get to the Gunk Yard on Substack. We went out there and we hung out with Hannah and Felix from Told Slant and Florist and a few other people. Talked to some folks, and then we went in the music room and heard Skull Crusher, who I've talked about before, when I saw them open up for Florist last year, and they were fantastic. They're diaphanous folks, never sounded so precise and shimmery. Then we heard Camp St. Helene, whose new album will be featured later in this episode, and they were really good, potently witchy psych with a slightly medieval edge, I guess you could say, or an ancient folk edge. The amazing thing about it was that the lead singer had laryngitis, and you would never know it until she spoke, and then you could hear it. But when you watch the video that I put up on YouTube later on, you'll be shocked. Her performance was fantastic. She was also just very compelling as a performer. So that was fun. A few nights later, on the 15th, we were in a very different venue. We went out to the Barclays Center. We had won tickets for the Billie Eilish listening party. This was for her new album, Hit Me Hard and Soft. We got to hear the whole thing 2 days before it was released with fantastic lighting and Billie Eilish herself running around, having the best time on the floor, being chased by her brother Phineas, also the producer of the album, who had a camera and was filming her the whole time. There's a short video of this on my YouTube as well. But man, it was great. And the album sounded so good in that big space. But it sounds great in my living room, in my headphones, in my kitchen, everywhere. It's really great. No samples on this podcast because, major labels. But I highly recommend Hit Me Hard and Soft. And it was just electric to be in the same place with 20,000 fans and Billie Eilish herself. What a night. When we come back, one more concert. When we went to Roulette on the 21st, there weren't 20,000 people there, but it looked like a sold-out house. And we were there for the Talk Ensemble's season-closing event, and it was an event. The world premiere of an evening-length work by Weston Olenski called When the Great Fires Were Lit on the Other Side of the Ocean. If you haven't heard Olenski's album, Old Time Music, you need to check that out. But everything they do is truly fascinating and always interesting. This work was no exception. Before it started, we had a lecture from someone calling themselves Dr. Anthony Gilbert Williamson, which it took me till the end of the night to realize was Olendzki themselves, playing an academic and doing a really good, entertaining job of it. Some things they said were true, other things were confabulated, and there was a great slideshow to accompany it, but it definitely got us in the mood to hear something new and fantastic. And that's what we heard, an ode to electricity, with buzzings and light bulbs going off and drones. The percussion was subtle at times. Everything was subtle at times, but there was a lot of great noises in it too. And some of the most beautiful singing I have ever heard from Charlotte Mundy. Her voice just sounded absolutely incredible. I'm afraid to say she might have stole the show. The cool thing is that you can watch this whole thing on the Roulette website. I'll put a link in the show notes. When we come back, some recordings. Our first album comes from Zosia Warhipa. It's called Silver Dawn and finds her playing the Hardanger d'Amore, which is like a violin with sympathetic strings. They vibrate while she plays, drawing freely from the tradition of Lydarslatar, or Norwegian listening tunes, which are freely flowing songs, impressionistic tone paintings, often reflecting the natural world, stories, and folklore. But she takes us to her own very personal place, but it is hypnotic, involving, engaging. There's a relationship to folk music, to fiddling, but also to Norwegian classical music. It just is a captivating album. Listen to Larkspur from Silver Dawn. Lovely stuff from Zosia Warhipa's Silver Dawn. That was an excerpt of Larkspur. Next, we have a new album from another violinist not unfamiliar with improvisation. On Josh Modney's first solo album, Engage, from 2018, he gave us a triple album and one disc was all improvs. Really fantastic player. He is a co-director of the Wet Ink Ensemble, a member of the International Contemporary Ensemble, just one of the best violinists around, and a great composer now too. This whole album is all composed by him, and it features him in a variety of settings. The first track is solo violin with distortion pedal. By the time you get to the last piece, Event Horizon, you've got a dozen people working with him, including fantastic players. What we're going to hear is a little bit of the second track, Lynx, for violin, cello, and electronics. Modney being Modney, he has the best in the world working with him, Mariel Roberts on cello, Sam Pluta running the electronics. Give a listen to Lynx. Wasn't that cool? Links from Ascending Primes by Modney. Keep up with his stuff unless you have a fear of adventure. Next we have a beautiful album by David Crowell. It is called Point Cloud. Crowell is a guitarist, a composer, band leader. He's been all over the map. He's played in the Philip Glass Ensemble, a really skilled musician, but also a great composer. And this album features all of his compositions. Verses for Liminal Space starts it off, a piece for Sandbox Percussion. Then we have a beautiful solo guitar piece played by Dan Lapel, Point Cloud, the title track. But we're going to hear a bit of Pacific Coast Highway, which is a guitar duet. And we get to hear it played by Dan Lapel and Mac Gergich. Check it out. Beautiful stuff. Dan Lapel and Mac Gergich playing Pacific Coast Highway by David Crowell from his terrific album Point Cloud. I hear a little more swing in his music, a little more rhythmic flexibility than you would expect from someone so immersed in the minimalist world of Reich and Glass. But then I started thinking about Glass's soundtrack to Mishima, one of his best pieces. In fact, I kind of only like Philip Glass when he's doing a soundtrack. Mishima was great, and Koyaanisqatsi, of course. Wonderful. Next we have a solo portrait album from Yi-Ting Liu. And a little bit like Luciano Berio with his Sequenza project, she is exploring the sounds of solo instruments, but with a bit more of a poetic angle than Berio had. So we have a piece for guitar, played again by Dan Lapel, Slimy Tracks. We have a bassoon piece, a sax piece, a piano piece, but we're going to hear harpist Ben Melsky of Ensemble del Niente, just a fantastic player, and he gets a beautiful piece from Yi-Ting Liu. Give a listen to an excerpt from Half Decorations, played by Ben Melsky. Ben Melsky playing Half Decorations by Yi Ting Lu from her beautiful album An Unopened Seashell. I think this is a good moment to take a pause, let everything sink in, and when we come back, a very different harp sound. And I am back. Things will only get more eclectic from here on out, starting with Red Moon by Lowleaf, the project of multi-instrumentalist Angelica Marie. She plays harp, piano, guitar, creates beats. She's part of the Baker's Dozen series, adjacent to things like Stone's Throw artists. And I noticed that Zero has mastered this EP. Zero worked with John Wayne and lots of other Stone's Throw people. Lowleaf here is accompanied by Brian Baker on flute, saxophone, Cody Farwell on bass, and Michaela Session on drums. Starting off with a cover of Blue Nile by Alice Coltrane. That's a bold move, but she treats it beautifully. What we're going to hear, however, is an original track called How to Open a Portal. And it does what it says on the tin. It will transport you somewhere else. Give a listen to an excerpt from How to Open a Portal by Lowleaf. Is the portal open yet? If not, you'll have to listen to the entire 10-minute track by Lowleaf from their great EP, Red Moon. So good. Next we have Kenny Wollesen, legendary drummer who's been making serious noise since at least 1990, mostly with John Zorn, but he's also played with Sean Lennon on his fantastic debut album, Into the Sun, Iron and Wine. He was on Tomberlin's last album, I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This, one of the best of 2022. Just an incredible musician, much more than a drummer. I first started honing in on Wollesen with the Sylvie Courvoisier trio, their album Da Gala, and a later one called Free Hoops, both excellent genre-defining piano trio records with Drew Gress on bass and, of course, Courvoisier, a marvelous pianist-composer. But now Wollesen has a new project out. It's called La Trala, and he's working with Nasheet Waits on drums, Tony Scher on guitar, Chris Thomas on bass, and Michael Coleman on synths. What is Wollesen doing? He's playing the electric vibraphone, the marimba, songs, bells, glass, marimba, congas, tenor sax, organ, tenor steel pan, and Wollesonics, his electronic percussion rig. Just a fantastic record. It's so bright and breezy that you almost don't notice how absolutely virtuosic it is. Let's hear a little bit of the last track, Cavalier de Beton. I think you're going to love it. Very Bright, Very Busy, that was Cavalier de Bâton by La Tralla from their debut album. And if you didn't know, I was quoting Lee Morgan from his introduction to The Beehive on the Live at the Lighthouse album, one of my favorite albums of all time, when he's introducing a song called The Beehive. He says, very bright, very busy, we call it The Beehive. They don't come much cooler than Lee Morgan. They never have, they never will. But our next band is Plenty Cool. This is Pet Wife, the queer trans duo of Isabel Ward and Noelle Sakowitz, who have been making awesome avant pop, art, rock, electronic music since 2018. Their new album is called Foam Set, and I think it's their best yet. The songs are finely honed, the sounds are layered and intriguing, and just in case you missed it when I shared a real one on a Song for Friday back in December, I'm going to play you the song called Initiation, and then you can definitely consider yourself initiated into the world of Pet Wife. That was Initiation from Pet Wife's terrific new album Foam Set. And you have to see the album cover. They sent it to me last year when the album was a work in progress, and I said, that's iconic. It really is. It looks so great on the cassette. It would look even better on a 12-inch LP sleeve, but there's no such release as of yet. You can get it on cassette and digitally. Anyhow, anyway, get to it. Next we have Climax Landers. This is a group that gathers around the singing, songwriting, guitar, and saxophone of Will Maloney. Includes members of The Cradle, Palberta, and they really bring these songs to life. In the description, they call it freak rock. There's a relationship with indie rock, folk, psychedelia. It's a little bit ramshackle. Occasionally reminds me of the Feelies, the way he kind of sings through the songs. Really, really great stuff. Give a listen to Play It Cool from their first album in 6 years called Zenith, No Effects.
It don't get much more legendary than this. Can't play it cool. Can't play it cool, the accident. Smoother than your fake accent. Can't play it cool, you talk too slow. Mom and dad have always known you can't play it cool, you supersize. Each request a penguin dies. Can't play it cool, you have my eyes. Fill me in the mirror lies. Can't play it cool, you pick up sticks. Meet me at the well at 6. Listen to Sticks. Can't play it cool, you play it warm. Stronger than my love forlorn. Consuming porn with the X-Man storm. The X-Man storm. Can't play it cool, you play it wise. All the presents are your...
Play It Cool by Climax Landers from their album Zenith, No Effects. I have a slightly uncool confession, which was that I ran into Reese Higgins, who's helping release and promote the album, at a record fair a few months ago. He had an early advance copy of this album, and he put it on my headphones, and I was like, yeah, it sounds pretty good. I'm not sure about those vocals, though. What can I say? It wasn't hitting me that day, but when the album came out, I gave it another chance. A lot of people were talking about it, and it turns out I really liked it. So then I had to go back to Reese and say, hey, this is really good. Can I put it on the podcast? And he played it cool and sent me the WAV file that I needed. Next, we have the band I was talking about earlier, Camp St. Helene. Their album is called Of Earth, and it's Timely Delights. It's their second album. It is self-released, self-produced. Elizabeth Ibarra is the singer I was describing who had laryngitis. She does not have laryngitis on this album. It really is a gorgeous record. Give a listen to Morning Dress, the second track from Of Earth, and its Timely Delights by Camp St. Helene. Once again, that was Morning Dress, spelled M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. Morning Dress by Camp St. Helene from their album Of Earth and its Timely Delights. I love that combination of the raw guitar and Ibarra's angelic voice. They really know how to work that, and they write great songs. It's a really good album. Next, we have a somewhat elegiac folk pop project called Reichenbach Falls. This is the project of Abe Davies, who is in Scotland, and he's singing and writing the songs and playing acoustic guitar, and Jonathan Anderson, a very skilled multi-instrumentalist who contributes some raw guitar of his own to the track we're going to hear, The Cold, the Glow, from Wayfarer Beware.
Hard to know where there's a pack for when you don't know where you're going and you really don't want to go at all. So baby, hold on fast, 'cause fingers fumble in the car. At least I tell myself it's that.
Beautiful stuff from Reichenbach Falls. Wayfarer Beware seems to detail the dissolution of a long-distance relationship. It's made by two men in a long-distance musical relationship. There's some irony there, but that's the way it works sometimes. You can do some things long-distance, other things you can't. Next we have Winged Wheel, their album Big Hotel. This is their second album, although the first one for me, it's really powerful roaring guitar and Sounds a little like Sister Ray at times. Got that Velvet Underground energy. So great. You're going to hear an excerpt from Smudged Textile from Winged Wheel. That was Winged Wheel taking flight in Smudged Textiles from their album Big Hotel. The whole thing is a gas, as we used to say. Those murky vocals on that album are quite a contrast to our next artist, however, Jackie West, who has a beautiful vibrato-free voice that she uses like a jazz singer sometimes in her indie chamber folk pop rock. Reminds me a little of Julie London at times. Here's an excerpt from Sunroom off of her album Close to the Mystery. Dreamy stuff from Jackie West, Sunroom off her debut album, Close to the Mystery. She has some great players on here too, including the always wonderful Shahzad Ismaili, who's played with everyone from Bob Dylan to Arouj Aftab to Mark Ribot. He's also on Tomberlin's I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This, along with Kenny Wollesen. They are reunited on this podcast, although on very different songs. Next we have what I believe is one of the great live bands of our time, Crumb. Their latest Amama gets to that live sound, I think, even more successfully than their previous albums, which are all great, don't get me wrong. But I feel like they're really delivering the dynamics and intrigue that I've experienced from them on stage. And you're going to hear that on Genie from their album Amama. That was the hypnotic and powerful Genie by Crumb from their third full-length Amama. I saw them play that song at Outline Festival last year, and when that bass solo came ripping off the stage, the crowd went nuts. It was so cool. They're just so great live. Do not miss them. Next, we have a band that I was introduced to pretty much live last year, Lion Limb. This is the project of Stuart Branaugh. And when I saw him, I noted that he was playing just himself on guitar and a drummer, and he had a bunch of pre-recorded stuff that was almost breaking the sound system. I knew there was ambition there, but I had no idea what to expect. And this album is just absolutely terrific. It's called Limbo. It's by Lion Limb. You're going to hear the song Hiss. Here it comes.
Saturdays didn't mean a thing, 'cause tomorrow'd always be anything I always need. So pull me close tonight, you might pure white. You had me feeling fine when I did never die.
Hiss by Lion Limb from their album Limbo. The word that comes to mind whenever I listen to their music is rain-swept. I even thought it that night at Baby's All Right when I saw them play, and he was wearing an overcoat, Stuart Branaugh. He used to play guitar for Angel Olsen, and she returns the favor singing on a song with him. It's all just such moody, magnificent stuff, beautiful arrangements. It's a great album all the way through. Next we have a real treat, Nicole Atkins, a wonderful singer whose Slow Phaser from 2014 is on my list of the 100 best albums of the 2010s. Take that, Apple Music. You should hear Slow Phaser. All of her stuff is great. Slow Phaser is just extra special. But this song is so cool. She had a free day of studio time at Electric Lady Studios. This is the story she tells. And she decided to call Hamilton Lighthouser of the Walkmen to sing with her and pick a song. He picked a rarity from Shirley and Lee, who you probably know from Let the Good Times Roll, called A Little Word. And they did it together in a reggae arrangement. Now get this. Then she sends it to Elvis Costello to see what he thinks. Elvis sends it to Linval Golding of The Specials, who adds a guitar solo. And then she sends it to Pat Sansone of Wilco, who plays an organ solo and mixes the track. It's just so much fun, though. You got to hear this. I've never heard Nicole Atkins sing so high in her register, but she and Hamilton Lighthouser are a dream duo. Here it comes, A Little Word from Nicole Atkins with Hamilton Lighthouser.
Yes, you tell the world I made you cry. Yes, you tell the world you wanted to die. But there's just one thing I want to know. How my little words could hurt you so.
Well, here I sit at home, so all alone,
talk to, you will know. Suddenly ring the telephone.
Ring, ring.
I just knew you'd say you're coming home. Instead you gave a little word that makes me cry. You said you're gone for good and gone. Goodbye.
Wasn't that just so much fun? Nicole Atkins and Hamilton Lighthouser performing Shirley and Lee's A Little Word. Shirley and Lee themselves are fascinating because they wrote or co-wrote most of their hits, including Feel So Good, Let the Good Times Roll, and I Feel Good. I'm getting a theme here, but A Little Word is also a great song that was written by Leonard Lee. Shirley Goodman, of course, is a totally fascinating character because she reinvented herself in the 70s with the song Shame, 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 one of my favorite disco songs. And believe it or not, Shame, Shame, Shame was what John Lennon was singing in the studio, and Bowie walked by and thought he said fame, 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 went off and wrote the lyrics to Fame. The rest is history. And speaking of history, this podcast is now history. That's it for this month. Thank you so much for listening. All the music you've heard has been ethically sourced from the artists and labels. Many thanks to them. Find links to those and everything else we discussed in the show notes, which also includes a Spotify playlist of most of the songs. Not the Nicole Atkins one, though. You'll have to go to Bandcamp, and you should buy it there because they deserve it. The interstitial tracks are by me, circa 1984 to 1986, with Andy Gilchrist on occasional guitar, and thanks as always to the Droplets, Holly Miranda, Amb Parsley, and Chris Maxwell for my theme song. Find me at anearful.substack.com and all the other socials. Please rate, share, review. That's the only way we continue growing this movement to reveal the finest music of our time. This has been Jeremy Shatton for An Earful. Discover Music with An Earful will be back next month. Until then, I hope you'll take my invitation to listen intentionally and find some of your new favorite songs, albums, and artists from this podcast. If you listen on Spotify, you can tell me how you listen intentionally. Have a great month, and thanks again for listening.
Musical tour,